Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Forecheck, brought to you by the Ram 1500 Sport. Andy McNamara alongside Nick Alberga, and as always, we're going to bring you your dose of NHL fantasy goodness, your waiver wire pickups, your sleepers, your guys to stay away from, and how to win some money in the Ram Sportsnet fantasy hockey pool. But Nick, let's get to some fantasy relevant notes. A coaching change in Nashville.
Yeah, and first and foremost, I think we have to give this show an ode to Pekka Rinne scoring a goal. You cover fantasy football. Why aren't goalies allowed to score goals, but wide receivers are allowed to throw touchdowns? That's my question,
that is a great question. I don't know.
You know what I'm saying.
I don't know.
We'll get to the Nashville Predators, and certainly the sixth coaching change of this NHL season.
Yeah.
Peter Laviolette out, John Hines in. I think up and down that roster, anytime there's a coaching change, especially to a good team, we talked about this at length with Calgary, clearly Toronto Maple Leafs. Those teams have responded pretty well from changes behind the bench and for different reasons, as we know. But Nashville, results-oriented, I think mainly in between the pipes. There's a lot of guilt to go around when it comes to the aforementioned Pekka Rinne and UC Saros. I think there's a buy low ability there, and I'd be all over that because I think Nashville is a really good hockey club. They're better than what they've shown so far this season. I think it would be important, and I think to target Philip Forsberg and Victor Arvidsson, two prolific wingers, especially Forsberg, who's a bona fide stud every fantasy season. Up and down that roster, there's been so many underperformers. I think I would forecast a legitimate boost up the middle as well for Nashville. They haven't been getting the production they thought they would have. So look at Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene, Kyle Turris, a new lease on life, a guy who used to be in the fantasy circle. So there's a lot of value, not to mention Mikael Granlund, who's in a contract year. His numbers are way down from career norms, and I think there's some value there, and I think you can never underestimate what a new voice could do behind the bench. So there's a lot of fantasy value right now, I would say, that's going to come to the forefront in Nashville.
Yeah, good buy low option. And Nick, we're creeping ever closer to a glorious return, like the wrestler Sting dropping from the rafters.
We hope not, though. No.
We hope not. From the rafters, Sidney Crosby getting ready to come back. That is fantastic news across the fantasy.
Yeah, they got to bubble wrap him, right?
Yes.
Make sure Sidney Crosby's A-OK before he comes back. But
take your time, right?
Yeah, as if a team needs him too. Like, this has been astounding to me. And Mike Sullivan, again, we talk about this every week, what credit he deserves for the job he's done. And the goaltending's been good to Tristan Jarry there. But they're 17-6-4 since Crosby went out and got that surgery,
That's
core muscle surgery. Like, it's incredible. So as if they need Sidney Crosby, clearly it boosts the fantasy relevancy of everybody on that roster, notwithstanding Malkin and Brian Rust are on fire right now. It doesn't matter who's on the ice with them. And I think if you look at Crosby, he's been skating a lot with Patrick Hornqvist and Jared McCann, who's been a nice, pleasant surprise for Pittsburgh this season. Dominic Simone could factor in at some point in time as well. I think you're looking at a boost for Chris Letang, and clearly in between the pipes with Tristan Jarry and Matt Murray, who's started to play a bit better as of late. So that's a massive pickup for Pittsburgh, and it's been astounding to see again how this team has done without their captain.
Without him. It really is unbelievable. So Sidney Crosby getting close to return, but we need to look at some injury replacements for Logan Couture.
Yeah, so Logan Couture goes down with a fractured ankle, and you start to wonder if time is running out here for the San Jose Sharks, another one of those teams to keep with the theme that has made a coaching change. And up and down, I would say, under Bob Bugner. I think from a defensive standpoint, I think we're going to look more at San Jose's crease in the next couple weeks. I will bring up one of their names in mere moments, but I think when you look at Logan Couture and that injury situation, internally, I think easy name is Joe Thornton. I know Antti Suomela has played up the lineup on the second line. I would put more stock in fantasy hockey in Joe Thornton. He's going to provide you with assists and points and not much more outside of that. So I think you would look externally. The great thing, I think if there's a silver lining when losing a center in fantasy hockey is how much depth there is in fantasy hockey up the middle. You'll find a replacement easy enough. I think you want to look at names like the aforementioned Ryan Johansson with the Nashville Predators, David Krejci with Boston. Nico Hischier's been man on fire with the Denzel reference right there. Like he has been incredible since Taylor Hall was dealt. I like Hischier a lot in New Jersey. I'm going after that. Rupi Hintz with the Dallas Stars, and Nola Chari week after week. We just think it's a 1 week thing, and he continues to score for Florida.
Building.
So there's tons of value there, and that's the silver lining again. Even with a centerman as prolific as a name as Logan Couture going down, you'll easily find a replacement there.
Nick, we always like to play the schedule game here. Very important when it comes to fantasy hockey. So we have 7 teams that are playing 4 games, 2 teams that are playing 2 games, and Nick, 1 team that is playing 5.
I wish we had come in like the wrestling days where the faction comes in. It's like, oh no, oh no. Look who it is.
It's 5 games.
It's the golden unicorn of fantasy schedules upcoming for the New York Islanders. If you're not a fan of that team, get used to it. Hi. Hello to my friends on Long Island.
At the Golden Muzzy on Twitter, yeah.
So yes, I will be pimping the New York Islanders this week, and rightfully so. They're going to be scattered across our Ram-capable picks. I would assure you that as well. So some guys you're looking at, certainly from a Sportsnet fantasy hockey pool, look, Semyon Varlamov, even Thomas Greiss, they've got 5 games. Barzal, Nelson. I think in terms of waiver pickups, Josh Bailey I'd be involved in. Anthony Beauvillier, Anna Kendra's favorite hockey player, of course, or vice versa, maybe his favorite actress. But he threw a shot. Not much of a response, to be honest. But Tito Beauvillier, as they call him, is a guy. It's his nickname. It is. Why are you laughing?
I believe you.
I'm informative on this program. You find things out they wouldn't know more so.
Yeah.
And he threw that tweet at Anna Kendrick. But I'm looking at those two. I think the only thing I'm worried of, even with the Islanders playing a 5-game week, they're not known for their offense. So I would put more stock in looking at their goaltending in daily fantasy, because that team is very stingy defensively. And of course, a couple other teams you want to look at. There are 7 other teams with 4-game schedules. I'm looking at Carolina.
Okay.
I'm looking at Chicago. By the way, Justin Williams comes back for Carolina. Doesn't sound like his return is imminent by any stretch. I think you want to take a wait-and-see approach. Same as what we advised you with Ilya Kovalchuk when it comes to Justin Williams. Just wait it out at this point in time. But I think Carolina and Chicago names you're going to look at. Eric Haula, as you brought up a couple weeks ago.
Haula, if you hear me.
There you go. Nino Niederreiter. And then on Chicago, Dominic Kubalik, who's been playing in the top 6 look. A lot of exposure to Taves and Kane. Really good value there. And Kirby Dach is the guy who's playing up the lineup, a rookie centerman with Chicago. Dylan Strome's out of that lineup right now as well. So again, in that Central Division, there's a lot to be had in terms of fantasy. But again, the Islanders are at the forefront of the fantasy conversation this week from a daily outlook here.
So that's how you can try to exploit the schedule for the upcoming week in your fantasy hockey pool, DFS contest, whatever it might be. Let's get to our top waiver wire pickups. And Nick, the category we put that in is around 50% or less to pick up. And I'm going to go get myself an all-star who is owned in less than 50% of Yahoo leagues, 47% to be exact, Tyler Bertuzzi for the Red Wings. And when you're on a bad team, sometimes you get overlooked. The Red Wings, they're last place. They're not very good.
They're not good, no.
We know that. But Bertuzzi's consistent 20-plus a night guy, and he gets overlooked with that. You got position flexibility, left wing, right wing. We like that. And he scored a goal in the power play assist in his last game. I think it's a nice depth pickup.
Yeah, and the best of all, when owning guys on teams that are not making the playoffs, is like there's no pressure, right? They just go out there and do their thing. And I think clearly there's more pressure on teams that are vying for a playoff spot, so I like that play. I'm going to go with another returning guy as my forward, Andreas Johnsson of the Maple Leafs. Sounds like his return is imminent. And I understand Alex Kerfoot's had a lot of budding chemistry on that second line with Tavares and Nylander, but I think it makes too much sense to slot Johnsson before he got injured. I couldn't believe it's been over a month since Johnsson was lost to a leg injury back on December 4th against the Colorado Avalanche. He was playing with Mitch Marner and John Tavares. Now the lines are a bit different in the top 6. So I'm going to look at Johnsson here, and I would predict at least, I'm not Sheldon Keefe, of course, I wish I was, but 91 and 88 I think will be the line mates for Andreas Johnsson. And I think he'll get some PP2 time, significant time on PP2, although in Toronto under Sheldon Keefe, the first power play unit, very Washington-like, will be out there for like a minute 45 of the 2 minutes. So be wary of that, but Johnsson's my forward pickup. What do you got on D?
Yeah, I do like that Johnsson pick. Again, it's teammates. You got to look at the big picture, right? Who's going to give him an opportunity?
Exactly,
Right? So I'm going to go on the defensive side. I think he's the best waiver wire available option. He's owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues from your Dallas Stars. Esa Lindell. Steady is the word I'd use. He's a steady guy. Not going to necessarily wow you. Doesn't take a lot of shots. He does block shots. But you look at his stretch. 12.13 fantasy points in his last 4 games heading into Saturday. 8 assists over that stretch. Was held off the board on Saturday by 8 assists. So he's somebody who's not going to jump off the page to you, but nice and steady. Back-end defender, and again, you go with depth. He's available.
Say yes to the Esa.
Say yes to the Esa.
I'm with that, and John Klingberg is banged up right now.
Yeah.
You would think Miro Heiskanen would be the guy to step up from an offensive standpoint, but don't forget, teams zone in on guys, especially during injuries, so that's opened up more time and space for Esa Lindell, and I think there's just so much value to be had on Dallas's back end because all the big names up front, so I like that quite a bit. I'm going to go back to the New York Islanders, and this is more so a play for this upcoming week because you got to manipulate that schedule as best you can. So I'm going to go to Devon Taves. First power play unit. He's arguably, in my opinion, at least the best offensive defenseman for the New York Islanders. I know, they got guys who can move the puck. Don't get me wrong, but I like what Devon Toews can bring to the table. And again, I'm just weary to go with Islanders players from a fantasy outlook because that team does not score like other teams in the league. They're really, really strong defensively. But I'm hoping for the best in the power of numbers this week and the fact that there are 5 games for the New York Islanders. More opportunity, we'll say, for Devon Toews. So that's my weekly pickup on the back end. It's a bit different, but I'm going to go with it.
You go with it.
Yeah.
In between the pipes, I'm going back to Dallas, baby. Going back to the
All
Stars.
over the Stars
Best
this week.
Backup goaltender available, Anton Khudobin. Go get him. 31% ownership. He's allowed more than 2 goals just once in his last 7 games, and he's getting a decent workload. 16 starts this season. So track it. For right now, I like it more of a DFS streamer play when he's playing. But as that workload keeps climbing, you track that. Maybe he becomes a secondary option on your fantasy league.
Yeah, and tracking's a vital word, I think, to use in fantasy hockey these days because we often stress that more teams are going to the timeshare system.
Yeah.
I often have people ask me questions about Mikko Koskinen in Edmonton. Mike Smith is the timeshare there. Like, don't forget, both guys will play.
They get time.
Doesn't matter. Ben Bishop's got a lot of injury history, and I think they'll try to keep him as fresh as possible for the playoffs. So Anton Khudobin's going to play a lot, no doubt about that. For goalie, I'm going to Mr. The Computer. The Computer, Aaron Dell in San Jose. Mr. The Computer. That's a new one.
He started Steiner promo there.
Yeah, it is. It's very well done. My math is always, it doesn't make sense. My math is not on because my last name could be recalibrated to be algebra. But
so
you just thought of that. I've never got that joke before. Not. So Aaron Dell started 5 of the last 6 games. He's won 4 of those 6. He's riding hot. I think San Jose is just in the business of getting victories right now. That team was reeling. We'll say they've been hotter as of late, but have they ran out of racetracks? My question. So. Important to stress again, from a defensive standpoint, they've been much more sounder the last little while, and that's going to happen when a new coach comes in. You're going to probably listen a bit more in Bob Bugner, who got promoted to the head coach there. So I think there's some value in a short-term look, at least for now. At Aaron Dell, don't forget Martin Jones is behind him, but he's been a massive disappointment, and I think San Jose is at a standpoint where they're just going to ride the hot hand. Again, the victory's so vital right now, so I'm picking up Aaron Dell, Andy.
Plug in the computer. Fantasy Forecheck, folks.
The home of the dad jokes, the Fantasy Forecheck
here, which is presented by RAM, the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. And this great show, is brought to you by the Canadian exclusive RAM 1500 Sport. This full-size pickup gives Canadians exceptional capability under the hood, advanced technology inside, and impeccable styling throughout, just like that joke. It's the RAM 1500 Sport, and it's designed for life in the North. So this is how we go. Fantasy.sportsnet.ca. If you've been playing all year, great, but you can jump in at any time. Weekly prizes, $50,000 to give away, but weekly prizes, you can win one of those RAM 1500 Sports. And what you do is you pick 6 forwards, 4 defensemen, 2 goalies. In each position group, you pick a player you want to RAM capable tag, and that player will get double the fantasy points. So who's your forward? Yeah,
so I'm going to intertwine this since we're talking a lot about the New York Islanders. My forward and goalie are both part of the New York Islanders. I'm going to go with Matthew Barzal.
Okay.
I'm RAM-capable picking Matthew Barzal for a variety of reasons. Again, the power of numbers, a 5-game week, the only team in the league with that. So I'm hoping that Barzal picks up a couple points along the way. You multiply that by 2, adds up to about 1,000, I think, with my Steiner math again. Yeah. Wrestling fans will get this, by the way.
140%, yeah.
Yeah, like that promo was one of the best of all times, as we saw before we came on air here. The 2-point value is really good. I love that. I pick Barzal a lot if the Islanders have high game volume. Again, that team doesn't score much, but everything, it's similar to you cover fantasy football. Everything runs through the QB or the running back. Everything runs through Barzal with the Islanders. If they're scoring, it's running through him. I think he's easy to get a point per game this season back to his rookie roots. So I'm going to go with Matthew Barzal. In between the pipes, Semyon Varlamov. I think both goalies are acceptable in the RAM-capable pick this week, or the goalie slot at least, from a Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool perspective. Thomas Greiss, you can look at him too, but I'm going to go with Semyon Varlamov, the game volume. And, I just think the power of numbers, again, like I put the chances of the Islanders getting a shutout higher than most teams in the league, if that makes sense.
Yeah, with that defensive capability. I went with Varlamov as well, so we match up there. And again, because of the 5-game week,
you can't.
What's he going to do? 3 to 4 games he's going to play. He's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
At forward, I'm going David Pastrnak. It's a 4-game week for the Boston Bruins. Now, usually I like to look. We talk about value. Pastrnak is at the top end. Pick your players 1 to 4 points, 30 points total. That's how you build your lineup. So Pasternak is 4. But man, he's worth it. He's the number 1 ranked
really good
player in fantasy.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to double up my points. I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to put it on David Pasternak. Who you got in between the pipes?
Yeah, Pasternak might change his last name. He might change his last name to Richard.
He might. It's defense.
That seems to be happening, right? Yes. Okay, I'll go with my D. I'm going with Chris Letang and the Pittsburgh Penguins. We talked earlier about Sidney Crosby and his pending return imminent as we speak to the Pittsburgh lineup. That's going to boost the entire roster. Letang, one of the top point-producing defensemen in this league once again. I still have my wonders from a health standpoint with him. You just never know, but he is in that lineup, so might as well utilize him right now. And the way Malkin's playing, the way Brian Rust is playing, the way that team is playing, again, 17-6-4 since Crosby went down in early November. That team is rolling right now, and I think there's a lot of value. Anytime you get a return of a guy named Crosby, like you gotta like that. Yeah, so it's a 4-game week for Pittsburgh. Pretty simple.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to my value. So paid full price for David Pasternak on D. Roman Josi of the Predators, 2 points. So you're telling me I can get the 5th-ranked fantasy hockey player for 2 points.
Not bad.
That is a great price for the Predators. You look at what he's been able to do. He's on a 12-game point streak.
Not bad.
A 12-game point streak, and he's
how many?
It's 12. And he's 2 points. 2 fantasy points. That's all the cost he has. You got to put the Ram capable tag. That might be the best value on the blue line.
Yeah, and again, to come full circle, the theme of this show, the Nashville Predators and the coaching change there, and you could only wonder. Roman Josi is already having this epic year. You change the voice behind the bench. You think Nashville's going to get better defensively and offense. They're going to continue to go here and get some more production. Yeah. And the guy spearheading everything, especially with Ryan Ellis out of that lineup, will be Roman Josi on the back end.
Absolutely love it. Hopefully you love the show. Leave us your comments below. Hit us up on Twitter with any fantasy hockey questions at AndyMC81, at the Gold Muzzy. Nick, we'll see all you next week on the Fantasy Forecheck.